Good evening, aviators. Today we are continuing the Absolute Beginner's Guide for the F-15C Eagle. This guide is meant for anyone who is new to DCS or is returning back to the DCS skies after a hiatus. For those DCS veterans out there, your contributions are always appreciated in the comments below. Today we are learning about the aerodynamic principles of stalls, how to perform and recover from various types of stalls in the F-15C. Now, because this guide is for the absolute beginner, we're going to start with Aerodynamic Basics. If you are familiar or have a basic understanding of stalls, you can skip this section of the tutorial if you wish. So I want to put DCS on pause. Let's talk about some terminology when we're talking about aerodynamics and stalls. So an airfoil, an object whose movement through the gas is capable of generation of a desired force such as lift. So that would be a wing, an aileron, a stabilator, rudder, elevator. All those fit the definition of airfoil. The leading edge is the front of the airfoil. In this case, we're going to be talking about wings, so it's the front of the wing as the first part that meets the oncoming air. The trailing edge is the rear of the wing, where the airflow is separated by where the air separated by the leading edge meets back up. The chord line, now this is an important term, the chord line is an imaginary straight line between the leading edge and trailing edge. It's a straight line. There's nothing really fancy about it, but you do have to know it's from the very front to the very back of the wing. The camber is the asymmetry between the two acting surfaces of the wing, usually the top and bottom, with the top being more curved so it can generate higher velocity over the top of the wing to create low pressure and to create that downward force. So now let's talk about it visualized. The leading edge, the front of the airfoil or the wing, running straight back to the trailing edge, that is the chord line, and this continues off into infinity. So just imagine this line continues outward forever. Now another term we have to talk about is the relative wind. Think of this as the opposite of your flight path. Your flight path is going parallel but directly opposite of the relative wind. So when we look at our flight vector on our HUD, that's the direction the plane's going, and that's the exact direction opposite the relative wind is coming from. And the difference between the relative wind and the chord line is our angle of attack. That is a very important term. We talked about it briefly earlier. In the F-15C, it is given in units, which is approximately 3 degrees. I've seen some various sources, but now I believe it is approximately 3 degrees per unit. Sorry, I said that backwards. It is 3 units per degree. So if you have 15 units of angle of attack in the F-15C, it is 5 degrees of angle of attack, approximately. And as you can see here, the upper camber is bigger than the lower camber. Okay, so we discussed the relative wind as the direction of the movement of the air relative to the airfoil, directly opposite the flight path, which we talked about. The angle of attack is the angle between the chord line and the relative wind, and it's a major component in the process of lift. Now the critical angle of attack, it's the angle of attack where the wing or an airfoil will stall. It never changes. You will always stall at the exact same angle of attack. Now your stall speed may be higher. I don't want to overcomplicate it too much, but basically your stall speed can change, but your critical angle of attack never changes. It's a byproduct of the wing. So here's angle of attack visualized again. We have that relative wind, we have the chord line, and we have the angle of attack. Now there's two more forces to discuss, or two more terms, lift and drag. So lift is the upward force acting on an airplane or a wing or an airfoil. Drag is the perpendicular aft when compared to lift force. So the drag is perpendicular and rearward compared to lift. It pulls the airplane back, and when you start talking about spins, that's why you get into a spin, because you have one wing that's more stalled, which has more drag than lift, and it causes a yaw, and that's how you get into a spin. So the critical angle of attack, when the air starts getting turbulent, or the airflow separates, that's when you've stalled. That airflow is no longer going over the wing as it should to create lift. And this is a good diagram with the relation of relative wind and direction of flight. Now let me show you here. So this is what normal airflow should look like as it's coming over a wing. Creates a low pressure area and creates lift. Also has that downward force which creates lift. So this is what it looks like when you're stalled. Now this diagram shows a little bit more relations between your pitch, your angle of attack, your flight path vector, things of that nature. Now we're not worried about this because this isn't what it looks like in the F-15C. But if this is the horizon here, the difference between the horizon and when the aircraft is, the datum is pointed, that is your pitch attitude. Your flight path angle, that is the difference between the horizon and where your aircraft's actually traveling. So that flight path vector that we see on the HUD, that's where we're going. The difference between that and the horizon is the flight path angle, or the datum's pointed in the horizon is the pitch attitude. Now the difference between the velocity and the angle of attack, the velocity when the aircraft's pointed, that is also the angle of attack, because the velocity reversed is the relative wind, and that's your angle of attack. Let's see, I'm not sure if there's anything else we need to talk about. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to perform a stall and how to recover from a stall. Most importantly is the stall recovery. So, when you get into a stall, how do you recover from it? It's very simple. So there's 3 terms I want you to memorize. Reduce, increase, coordinate. You're going to reduce your angle of attack. You're going to increase your power or thrust, and you're going to make sure you're coordinated. So, from what we just learned, the difference between our pitch and our flight path vector is our angle of attack. Okay, so if we were to stall at this moment, how do we reduce our critical angle, or how do we reduce our angle of attack to get under our critical angle of attack? We need to reduce. So, very simply, we just need to pitch down, just like that, and our angle of attack decreased. If you pull back, your angle of attack increases, and you get into the stalled state. Now, if you were to get into a stalled state here, there's some buffet, so that's the first indication of a stall. You're going to reduce the angle of attack, just as we discussed, but now you're descending, and we don't want to do that. So you're going to make sure you increase thrust by bringing the throttle up. Then as your airspeed increases, and your flight path starts coming up, your relative wind gets more in front of you, you can pitch up, and that decreases your loss of altitudes. So you break the stall by pitching down, reducing your angle of attack. You slow your rate of descent by increasing power, and then you stay coordinated by using the rudder. Now, it's hard to get in an uncoordinated stall in the F-15C, but I'll try to demonstrate. If a wing drops, you want to pick it up with the opposite rudder. So I'm going to try to stall uncoordinated. So normally you wouldn't want to do this, but I'm going to induce a stall where the left wing breaks. Now it's very tempting to just pick it up with right aileron and right wing. You don't want to do that because you can get yourself into a spin or an even deeper stall. So if a wing drops during a stall, you pick it up with opposite rudder. So if the left wing drops, you pick it up with right rudder. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate just a power off stall. There's the stall buffet. I'm going to try to get the left wing to drop. And there we go. Now you reduce the angle of attack by pitching down, use right rudder, and increase power. Reduce angle of attack, increase throttle, coordinate with rudder. And then smoothly pitch up. You don't want to do any more than about 20 units of AOA. Alright, let's do that one more time. So I'm going to pop the speed brakes just to slow down. I'm going to go into a stall. I'm going to do the 3 things. Reduce my pitch, increase power, stay coordinated with the rudder. So I'm going to pull back. I'm going to wait till the full stall warning. So keep pulling back, keep pulling back. There it is. Reduce pitch, increase power, stay coordinated. once your speed increases, you can start pitching up, and now you're recovered. Your flight path vector's right on the horizon. Now let's talk about some other types of stalls. Okay, so the next stall we're going to talk about is an accelerated stall. This is the stall you're most likely going to run into in DCS because you do it a lot, if you're not careful, while doing ACM, air combat maneuvering. So an accelerated stall is any stall greater than 1G. Now we're pulling 1G here. Now you can stall up to 8 or 9 Gs in the F-15C. I don't know how much we're going to get to today, but that's the definition of an accelerated stall. To recover from an accelerated stall, you're also going to do those three things. Reduce angle of attack, increase power, stay coordinated, and then the last thing you're going to do is make sure your wings are level at the end. That will help you recover from the stall. So, to make this realistic, ooh, that was a sudden pitch down. You're most likely going to be about 300 to 350 knots in a fight with someone, and you're probably going to be in a turn fight of some kind. So we're going to be in the turn, and we're going to keep pulling. We're going to keep pulling until we get that stall warning. Then we're going to reduce, increase, coordinate, level wings. So keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. There's the recovery. Okay, reduce, power's increased to full, you're coordinated, your wings are leveled. It's that simple. Now let's do one with the power off in accelerated stall. So we're going to keep going until we get that stall warning, and beyond it until a wing actually drops, and there's a complete stall. Reduce AOA, increase power, stay coordinated, and level your wings, and then slowly pitch up. If needed, you can keep going down as much altitude as you're allowed. Now, let's do an accelerated stall near the surface. Okay, near the surface, this is not a spot where you want to stall because you have very limited altitude to work with. So, we're at 550 knots. We're going to this turn, pretend we have an enemy on our tail, and we're going to keep pulling back as much as we can beyond the stall warning till a wing actually drops. I'm going to decrease power so we don't black out, and there we go. Reduce your pitch, increase power, stay coordinated, level wings, and then dive down as much as you need while increasing speed. Then you can get back into the fight. Now, you never want to get that deep into a stall because it takes so long to recover. So, you recover at the first indication, which in an accelerated stall is right there. So reduce your angle of attack, and that's all you got. You've broken your stall right there. Instead of taking it all the way into a deep stall, where it will take quite a while for you to recover. See how much longer that takes when you get that slow and that low on power? So it's the exact same process. Reduce your AOA by pitching down, increase your power, keep it coordinated, and level your wings. Another stall you should be aware of is a secondary stall, which is a stall that happens after an improper stall recovery. So we're back up here at altitude 8,000 feet, and we are going to go into a power off stall. So I'm going to pitch up just to accelerate things a little bit, maybe even pop the speed brakes for a moment. And I'm going to make an improper stall recovery by not adding power and try to do the exact same thing. You will end up in a more stalled state. Okay, so I'm going to recover when it breaks. So I'm going to keep pitching up, and there it breaks. So I'm just going to reduce the left wing drop, so I'm adding right rudder to stay coordinated, but I don't add any power, and I'm going to try to pull up. And I get myself into a secondary stall. And that time I had to add left rudder to stay coordinated, and I've really had to drop my nose. I've had to pitch down 20 degrees to recover. Okay, the next stall you will most likely encounter is a cross-controlled stall. What is a cross-controlled stall? Well, if you are adding left rudder incorrectly too much, so trying to overuse your rudder to help yourself turn, for instance, onto final, like to that runway right there, but you're banking too much, which leads you to have to add opposite, so in this case right aileron, and then you're pulling back to stop a loss of altitude. this will set you up for a cross-controlled stall, and if you do not correct it early, you can go into a low altitude spin, which is not what you want. Now, why would you go into a spin? Because you're stalling uncoordinated, which means one wing is stalled more than the other, and you go into a spin, you crash, you die, game over. So this is one you want to make sure you fix correctly. Now, what's the correction for this? Well, we're still going to reduce our angle of attack, we're still going to increase our power, and we're going to get coordinated again. So we're going to get rid of all the rudder we're putting in, even add right rudder if necessary, and then make sure our wings are level. So I will demonstrate a cross-control stall and recovery for you right now. So we're 200 knots. I'm going to purposely overshoot final so that I can set myself up for a cross-controlled correction, or a cross-controlled situation. I'm going to add a little bit of power to keep me from getting too slow too early. Okay, so I'm turning in, and I've done so too late and too slow. So I'm going to start adding left rudder, and then I see, oh no, my left wing's dropping, so I'm going to add right aileron and pull back, and I'm cross-controlled. And then I'm going to recover, so reduce angle of attack, increase power, and stay coordinated. I use right rudder to pick up the wing because my left wing dropped. You bring your flaps up, you bring your gear up, and you go around and try again. Alright, let's see that cross-controlled stall one more time. So I'm on base, about to turn final to the runway. And I'm going to purposely start the turn late, which is incorrect and is what will most likely lead you to a cross-controlled situation. So I'm going to start turning, but too shallow. I see, oh, I'm overturning. Going to add left rudder. Oh, my left wing's dropping, adding right aileron, pulling back to stop altitude, and there's the stall. The wing drop, reduce AOA, increase power, use your right rudder to re-coordinate yourself. Then establish a positive rate of climb. You're climbing, flaps up, gear up, go around and try again. Okay, here is another stall that could be kind of a challenge. So I have added full nose up trim, and right now I'm using a lot of force to keep the nose down. If I were to let go of this yoke, it will pitch me up and lead me into a stall. Now, how do you recover from that stall? Well, you have to reduce pitch, so reduce your AOA. You have to increase power slowly this time, slowly, stay coordinated, and then take out your trim. Now, as I'm pushing forward on the yoke, that's when I start taking out the trim. So I'm going to let go, leads me into a stall, waiting for the brake. There's the brake, so I'm going to pitch down, increase power. Now I'm trimming forward, staying coordinated with rudder, and I've trimmed all of that nose up trim out. And slowly letting it come up again. So if you accidentally had too much elevator trim, that is how to recover from an elevator trim stall. Okay, the last stall I want to talk about and demonstrate is an approach to landing stall. So right now we're on final for the runway. Let's say we get too slow and we start stalling. How do we recover? Well, you could probably take a guess. You're going to reduce your angle of attack. You're going to increase power. You're going to stay coordinated. And then you're going to establish a positive rate of climb, clean the airplane up, and go around again. Now, what do I mean clean it up? The first thing I'm going to do, as I add power, I'm going to bring flaps up to get rid of that drag caused by the flaps. Yes, we'll use a little bit of lift, but it'll be inconsequential once the thrust is up. Then I'm going to wait until I see a positive rate of climb, so either this is climbing up or my flight vector is above the horizon. Then I'm going to bring gear up. I'm going to accelerate to 300 knots, and then I'm going to bring the power back and keep 300 knots in the climb. So, let's do it. I'm on final. There's some buffet. I'm going to take it a little bit deeper till it actually breaks. And there it is. So decrease AOA, increase power, flaps up, slowly bring it up. There's a positive rate of climb, gear up. Accelerate to 300 knots. then into military power, go around, and try again. And that's it, guys. That's really all there is to recovering from stalls in the F-15C. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you leave a like. If you'd like to see future videos, please subscribe. If you have any comments, feedback, derogatory remarks, go ahead and leave them in the comments below and I'll try to address them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the skies.